you guys want to check out my quarterback ranking list, that will be in my YouTube channel posted yesterday. So like I said, I will be doing wide receivers today. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you do not like any of my picks, please let me know down in the comments. We can have a nice little sports debate. Starting off with Adam Thielen here. Adam Thielen is an above average wide receiver. Even when Diggs left and he really had to come into the wide receiver 2 role and had to still take the number 1 corner, I'm pretty sure he still went for 1,000 yards this year, and he had a bunch of touchdowns. He had like 13 touchdowns this year. And then that's even with Diggs being gone. He still did have Jefferson this year, but Jefferson was always the clear-cut number 2. With Diggs would get the number 1 corner sometimes. So even with Adam Thielen really coming into the number 1 this year, he was still producing pretty well. A.J. Brown, another above-average wide receiver. He's really kind of the only receiver in that receiving core. Corey Davis is all right. He was like the 5th overall pick one year, and he kind of never panned out to like be like the 5th overall pick. And A.J. Brown was drafted in like the 2nd round, and he's playing extremely better, and he's less experienced than Corey Davis. So that just shows how good A.J. Brown is. A.J. Green used to always be either an elite or a great wide receiver. There was no debate, but last couple of years with injury, and it sucks because A.J. Green is my favorite player of all time, but he is a below average wide receiver right now. Allen Robinson is a great wide receiver. I love A-Rob. He will be gone from the Bears this year. I hope he goes to a real team with a real quarterback. Guys, he's had Blake Bortles. Now he's got Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, and he still goes for 1,000 yards every year. Like, if he gets a legit quarterback, he's going to go for like 1,200 and 10 touchdowns every year. Like he's insane. Like, he's so good, and he's still young, but it's just he doesn't have a quarterback, and it's so bad. I feel so bad for him. Next, Alshon Jeffrey, just like A.J. Green, used to be pretty solid. He was never as dominant as AJ, but he at least was pretty solid at a point. He'd be like average to above average, or like a solid, but he's bad now. Amari Cooper is an above average wide receiver. Sorry about that. That's all you need to say. He's pretty solid. They signed like $100 million contract, traded for him for like a 1st round pick or 2 from the Raiders. He's pretty good. Brandon Cooks, I think this is Brandon Cooks, and he was on the Rams. I'll put him in average. He's nothing special. He's kind of like a speed guy, but he's not. I wouldn't put him in the same tier as AJ and Alshon, but he's definitely not an above average. He's just like your typical like wide receiver 2. Calvin, especially after this year, is definitely an above average wide receiver. He's on probably almost great. He's that good. He does have Julio, but even in the games Julio does miss, Calvin is still so consistent. Chris Godwin is an above-average wide receiver. He kind of came on last year with Jameis, but Jameis did throw like 45 times a game. But even with Tom this year, Chris Godwin is definitely an above-average quarterback. I'm sorry, I made the quarterback list yesterday, so I'm so used to saying quarterback. An above-average wide receiver. Cooper Kupp, same thing, wide receiver, an above-average wide receiver. He also has Robert Woods, so we don't really know who the number 1 in that offense is. They're like both number 1s. They get like the same amount of targets every year. But Cooper Kupp is a very good receiver. I'm going to put Courtland Sutton in the unproven. Even though he has been in the league for a couple of years now, he came on last year and did very solid, and they tore his ACL in like practice, not preseason. There's no preseason this year, but training camp. I know he had a shoulder injury. So he had a shoulder injury. He was like questionable for week 1, and then a report came out that he tore his ACL, and we're like, So he's only been in the league for I think this was his 3rd year or 4th year, but I put him in the unproven. D-Hop, elite. That's all you need to know. He's arguably the best receiver in the league. D-Hop is ridiculous. He's that good. Deebo Samuel, I'll put unproven too. It's hard to I don't want to put Deebo Samuel on the average because he's better than Cooks, but I can't put Deebo Samuel as an above-average receiver because he's just not. But we don't know because he's been injured and he's young. I think this is Mims, right? Yeah, that is Mims from the Jets. He's unproven. He has Sam Darnold, so hopefully they draft a quarterback because he's not going to put up production with Sam Darnold. One of the best receivers in the league, one of the best route runners in the league. He's ridiculous. He's insane. Every elite receiver is, insane. I just said, D-Hop's crazy. Devontae Adams is literally disgusting. He's so hard to guard, it's not even funny. Parker, He had that 1 year last year. Like, his career has basically been 1 year. I'm going to put him in average. He's a number 2. That's all it is. He's a number 2 receiver. He doesn't have separation. That's the only problem with him. He doesn't have good enough separation to be a number 1. That's all it is. That's just the bottom line. He can't be a number 1 consistently because he just doesn't have that separation. And that's really all it is. Chark, I'm going to put unproven. I think this is his second year. He was a rookie last year out of LSU. Same thing, spotty quarterback play. So, like, this guy had spotty quarterback play. He's young, has been injured. Mims has had spotty quarterback play, and he's young. And the same thing with Chark, spotty quarterback play, and they're young. It's so hard to rate someone when they've had spike. It's so difficult. I don't know. DJ Moore, I could put him in unproven, but I think he's established himself as an above average wide receiver. He's had horrible quarterbacks. I mean, he had Cam Newton, which is trash, and then Teddy this year. But I like DJ Moore. He's out of Maryland. I think he went in the first round. He was in the same draft as Calvin and Cortland Sutton. I like DJ Moore. He's not Calvin Ridley, but he's like a low end below average. Above average. DK is also above average, just like DJ Moore. He was in the same draft class with A.J. Brown. They were actually teammates at Ole Miss. He's just an athletic freak. He runs a 4.3 at like 220 or some crazy number, and he's like 6'3", 6'4". He's huge. So he's on another level. He needs to become more crisp as an actual wide receiver. I just feel like he's more of an athletic freak. So he just kind of like, oh, I'm bigger than this cornerback, or I'm faster than this cornerback, which, I mean, you can say Tyreek Hill's just faster than cornerbacks. But, like, being an actual, like, straight up, like, technical route running, blocking, like, understand concepts and schemes, and I don't think he's fully developed yet. So that's where I put him. And I'm actually just going to skip to Terry here and also put him here, because this is a huge debate, Terry or DK. So as an actual wide receiver, like I just talked about, like with like hands and route running and technique and leverage and all of those aspects of the game, Terry has excelled better and faster than DK. But DK just has that like athleticism peak. Like that, he just has more athleticism. He's more of a athletic freak than Terry, but the more like technical parts of being a receiver, I put Terry ahead. So this debate is they're different types of receivers, so it's hard to compare them. But as just a straight up like route running receiver, like tech, I have Terry. But honestly, if I would just had to go one game, who would I choose? I'd probably go DK. Golden Tate, below average. He just hasn't been productive in a couple years now. Nothing really else to say about him. Ruggs, unproven, rookie. Doesn't even really get the ball thrown his way, which is kind of weird, but yeah. Landry is another one who's a good number 2. He can be a number 1. He was a number 1 in Miami, and now with OBJ's injury, he actually did good in the playoff game against the Steelers. So he can be a number 1. So he can have those games where he can be a number 1, but he's not consistently putting up those numbers, kind of like Devontae Parker. So I think they like Devontae Parker and him are both like good number 2s. Like if those are your number 2 receivers, you're pretty happy. Judy, just same thing. It's unproven. Bad quarterback play, and he's young. That's about it. Juju Smith-Schuster, literally the exact same situation. AB left and his numbers went down, and that's not necessarily his fault. I mean, he was just against the number 2. He was against the number 2 corner every game, and they moved him to the slot this year, or was it last year? I think it was this year they moved him to the slot. So he's just a better number 2, and that's why they drafted Chase Claypool. I mean, if you have Deontay Johnson, James Washington, and Juju, if you're confident in those guys, you don't draft Claypool, which they did draft Claypool because they know Juju can't be a number 1. Like Juju's. Like, he's not going to go out there and, like, be a number 1 and consistently put up 1,000-yard seasons. Like, he'll get you a solid, like, 700-800, but that'll just be from the wide receiver 2 spot. Edelman, he's below average now. He's actually a lot older than I thought. He's, like, 34. He's coming off a knee injury. I don't even know what the situation with his... I don't even know if he's under contract or if he's a free agent. I don't know what the deal is with him, but, yeah, he's below average. Julio Jones. Just kidding, it's Julio. But, Yeah, he's an elite quarterback. He's been so consistent for so long. He was in the same class as AJ Green, and they were both neck and neck. And then AJ Green got injured in back-to-back years, and then that just kind of time caught up with him. He's been a little bit more injured than usual. He was injured a little bit. He's banged up this year and banged up last year. But when he's on the field, he does nothing but produce. So I love me some Julio Jones. Keenan Allen is a great wide receiver, especially with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert truly unlocked his ability. Like, he was putting up ridiculous. Now, he was going for either, 60 yards and or a touchdown every game for, 10 straight games. Like, you were either seeing 60 yards or a touchdown from him. Like, he's been so consistent. Who is this? Is this Kenny Golladay? Yeah, it is Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay is an above-average receiver. I could see him being in great, but he didn't play this year. He was an above-average going into this year. If he would have put up, another, 1,200-yard season and, above 7 touchdowns, maybe even if you because he had a lot of touchdowns last year, 11. So say he went for 1,200 and another 11, I'd probably move him to great. But he didn't play this year; he had a hip injury, so we don't know about that. Larry legend. He's in a below average now. Larry was always so consistent, one of the greatest receivers in NFL history, and will go down as one of the greats. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. His name's Larry Legend for a reason. Marquise Brown's pretty bad. I don't want to put him below average, but he's not very good. He's just a number 2. That's all it is. He's a number 2 trying to play a number 1, and they don't have an offense. I mean, they don't have a passing offense. Lamar, it's not even like Lamar can't throw. That's not how they run their offense. There's no, hey, drop back and read a couple people and make a throw. That's not how they do it. They don't get in 3rd and longs. They don't get in 2nd and longs. They don't do that kind of stuff. So they're never of course it happens, but they're never really forced to throw the ball too much. So I'm gonna put him in below average just because he is he's so fast and he struggles with separation. I remember seeing it was early in the year when they played the Patriots, and it was a fly route against J.C. Jackson, and it was J.C. Jackson's 40 time versus Marquise Brown's 40 time, and he straight up was running with Marquise Brown. I don't know, I just feel he doesn't have the technique and the separation and the route running. I think he's just a speed, and speed guys never work in the NFL. Just speed, other than your rare instances of Tyreek Hill, people who were drafted basically based off speed or John Ross and Tavon Austin and those people, they never work out. So MT is great. Everyone calls him Slant Boy and hates on him. If you don't think Michael Thomas is a top 5 receiver, you're crazy. That's all I got to say about that. I'm putting Mike Evans in great. After another 1,000-yard season, this guy is the definition of consistency. I can see him in great, but he just had another 1,000 yards. He's had 7 straight. No one does that. He's insane. I think Mike Evans is crazy. I'm still putting OBJ in above average. He's kind of fell off a little bit. I feel his best year was his rookie year, and then maybe one other year on the Giants. Got an extension. Got into a fight with the net. Freaking got traded. Was Baker with the running off. I don't know. And then he tore his ACL actually against the Bengals. And the second play of the game tore his ACL. I was watching that game live. I'm a Bengals fan, so. And Diggs is great. Yeah, Diggs is insane, especially with Josh Allen. Like I said earlier with who was I saying unlocked whose potential? Oh, it was Keenan Allen. I was saying Justin Herbert unlocked Keenan Allen's true potential. Josh Allen did the same thing for Stephon Diggs. He unlocked his true potential of being a top 7, maybe top 5 receiver. Ty is below average. All in this line of guys who were once pretty consistently up in this higher range, and now they kind of slowly fell down. And last but not least, definitely not least, the speedster himself, Tyreek Hill, is 100% an elite receiver. Like I said, it's when I would do my top 5 rankings, I really don't know if I would have Mike Evans in my top 5, in no particular order. Of course, D-Hop, Devontae, Julio, Tyreek Hill. But then, honestly, I could see a Diggs or Michael Thomas over Mike Evans, but he's just been so consistent for so long that he has to be an elite receiver. That's just I'm leaving him there. Like I said, I don't know if he is top 5, even though there's only 5 receivers in this list. But you don't go for seven straight 1,000-yard seasons and aren't considered elite. So that's I can even see Diggs up here. Honestly, this whole section could be flip-flopped. But yeah. So if you guys want to debate in the comments about any of my picks, someone should be higher, someone should be lower, please let me know in the comments. I love sports debates. Please remember to